Glenn, one of America's most infamous cannibals from the 80s. So much of her story and these case records had been sealed from the public because it was deemed too disturbing to print. Even this booking photo, it was sealed. This is a leak. They did have somebody submit another leaked photo of this photo. It's just from a closer angle. Like I said, there's not really much that's publicly known because so much of her case was actually sealed. The rumors of the story was that the case was so bizarre and so horrific.
What's up, Seekers? Welcome back to the channel, man. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are doing alright, man. If you're brand new to this channel, if you guys don't know what we do, man, we break down scary and creepy videos, man, on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook reels, man. Anything weird, usually unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just like I said, I want to thank the Seekers, man, who's been tapping in with us, man, subbing up to the channel and hitting that like button, man. I really appreciate that, man. Like I said, guys, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that post notification bell so we can grow our community together. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, Seekers. Let's seek the truth.
Missed the total solar eclipse on April the 8th, you may never see one again. And here's why. People are making such a big deal about this eclipse that the Niagara Falls region has had to declare a state of emergency to prepare for the amount of crowds trying to see it. Now, what makes this one so special is that the time for total coverage of the sun will last for a massive 4 minutes and 23 seconds in some areas. Our sun is approaching its solar maximum, which is a period of time where it's most active, meaning this eclipse is perfectly timed for you to have the chance of seeing some insane flares. You'll see stars in the middle of the day, the air will suddenly get cooler, and the reason you may never experience it again is that a lot of the time the shadow of a total solar eclipse passes through the ocean, the tip of South America, the coast of Iceland. So for a city to find itself in this path of totality again, you'll have to wait another 375 years. Now, if you don't live in these cities, almost everyone in North America will still get the chance to see a partial solar eclipse. So I'll be sure to make an update the day before to remind you that this is the scary story.
Seekers, man, when he's talking about that solar eclipse, bro, the part I'm focusing on, he says that 4 minutes and 23 seconds, man, where it's just like, he says it's just going to be complete, I guess, not complete darkness, but it's going to cover up the sun, so it's going to be like, yeah, it's going to be kind of dark in some areas, man. I wonder what's going to happen, man. People going to try to, is that going to turn into something else, man? You know how people are, bro, when, like, I guess events and stuff happens around the world, Seekers. That's something we're going to have to keep an eye on, man. Remember, 4 minutes and 23 seconds? I don't know, Seekers, bro. About that eclipse, man. Yeah, guys going to check it out?
Story about the Easter Bunny. One night, a kid named Jimmy was lying in bed. It was Easter the next day, and Jimmy couldn't wait. Suddenly, as Jimmy was trying to fall back asleep, he heard a noise come from downstairs. At first, he didn't care, but when he heard the noise again, he got up and went down the stairs to go check it out. Jimmy was really hoping that it was the Easter Bunny. When Jimmy got downstairs, he saw the Easter Bunny just standing there. Jimmy got excited and tried to talk to him, but before Jimmy could even speak, the Easter Bunny jumped at him. The next morning, Jimmy's parents got up and went downstairs. When they went into the living room to look at the Easter baskets, they froze in horror. In the one basket was Jimmy's decapitated head. Jimmy's parents then freaked out and called the police. The police then told them that a man was dressing up as the Easter Bunny last night and was breaking into people's houses and killing them.
I'm going to show you a picture and tell me how it makes you feel. There's an extremely dark backstory behind this photo, one that you probably wouldn't suspect. This was way out in Jefferson County, Georgia. This is back in 2017, and there was a lot of suspicious activity coming out of this area. This was right around April of that year, kind of near Easter time, so of course families had a lot of plans to have their family in town, despite there being a lot of break-ins in this area. So very late one evening, the girl where this story came from was home with her family, her 2 older brothers, when it appears that she must have heard something outside of her room because she got out of bed. Because there was a smashed dish that was found at the scene, we can assume that was what she heard. So she left her room and immediately started filming, thinking that it was probably her older brother. So she was trying to make a joke. Only when she left her room, it was not her brother in the kitchen. No one seemed to hear anything, but she was found the following morning in the backyard of the home, and this was one of the final frames that was captured on her phone that was released publicly.
Seekers, man, what is it about the holidays time, bro, that people just decide to freaking do some weird things, man? You dressed up like a damn Easter bunny, bro? And why would you in the East on a holiday like that, man? That's just a smack in the face. Doing it on that holiday, freaking taking people away from their families. That's not what it's just about, Seekers. But people, they twisted it and freaking to try to turn it to something else, man. You're gonna have to look into this Easter story, Seekers. Something about that, bro.
Imagine seeing a man walking down the street eating a severed leg. On March 22nd of this year, around 8 a.m. in Kern County, California, there was a fatal train collision that had killed somebody. This collision happened at the city's Amtrak station. 27-year-old Rosendo Tellez was near the scene and actually went up to the victim and snatched his leg. He then started to walk around the area carrying that victim's leg. People in the area saw what he was carrying, and that's when they decided to record him. That's when they realized that Rosendo was walking around biting from that leg and eating it. The video was then posted on social media, and it showed him walking around with the leg, and then he started waving it around police cars that were near the area. That same day, Rosendo was arrested. He was charged with removal of human remains other than a cemetery, 1 misdemeanor count of controlled substance paraphernalia, and 1 felony offense of his probation. May that victim forever rest in peace.
What's the eat a human leg? What the hell is going through his mind, man? Crazy world, Seekers. At it. Gotta call it like I see it.
The most evil kids ever. Part 3. Here is India's youngest serial killer ever, Amarjit Sada. This young Indian boy was accused of murdering 3 babies. The young boy's first 2 murders were done to his family members. Amarjit murdered his 6-month-old cousin and his 8-month-old sister. He would throw a brick at the baby's head to make them unconscious and then strangle them to death. The worst part was Amarjit's family knew what was happening, they just did not care. Days later, the young boy went to his neighbors and abducted the newborn baby from them. He then killed his neighbor's baby using the same torture method. Amarjit was caught committing the crimes. When the police asked the little boy why he committed the crimes, he just laughed and asked for a biscuit. Amarjit was sentenced to 10 years in prison. This is him now, a free man. You should never...
They didn't even freaking care, bro. That's the part that got to me, Seekers, man. His family knew what he was doing, those acts, and they just didn't care. They just let it continue. And since they didn't stop him, it spread into somebody else's family. Trying to tell you guys, Seekers, man. These videos, bro, be expanding my mind. I didn't even know something like that even happened, bro. Like, what the hell? If you don't do something, man, to stop the problem, man, it can affect other people. So just take care of it now, Seekers.
Never trust the Easter Bunny, and this is why.
Childhood actors who became murderers. Meet Ryan Grantham. Ryan Grantham starred in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie and Riverdale. But on March 31st of 2020, his life took a dark turn. He unalived his mother while she was playing the piano and was sentenced to life in prison. His reason behind doing this was because he wanted to spare her from seeing the violence that he was going to commit later on.
You know, there's a lot of stuff, Seekers, man, that's been going on with these freaking, childhood actors in Hollywood recently. That's just another one who just took a dark turn. I mean, I watched the Diary of a Wimpy Kid, so when that name came out, I'm like, what the hell? I remember it. I started to remember. I'm just like, what do these kids be going through in this Hollywood process, man, that just freaking, like, changes their mindsets, man? There's something, man, going on in that Hollywood when it comes to kids that we really got to pay attention to, or someone just has to do a deep dive into it, Seekers, man. There's like something that's going on that we really don't know about.
I hope y'all live your life well without seeing my child, Gabrielle Blair. You lived well without seeing them throughout their whole life, so live well now. But you ain't got nothing to say to me for what I did for my child, period.
As a mother, one of your primary responsibilities was to protect your kid. And in that respect, you failed yours. There's nothing that can be done at this point to change what happened.
True, that's why I'm asking for life.
They lived in terrible fear of you. And I find that just so sad in this case. You imposed the death penalty on your own children.
I did.
You're therefore sentenced to the Michigan Department of Corrections for the rest of your life without the possibility of parole, meaning, of course, that you will never get out. You will receive, yes, you will receive credit for 115 days.
On February 15, 2018, the defendant, Pearl Cynthia Fernandez, entered a plea to murder in the first degree and further admitted the special circumstance of intentional murder by torture. Accordingly, it is the judgment and sentence of this court that the defendant shall be sentenced to a term of life in prison without the possibility of parole for the underlying murder charge.
I'm sorry to my children, and I want them to know that I love them.
It's the same like she
And I
reading
hope
the script.
they will forgive me. And I hope one day they would come to me. I wish for the same for you.
The story of the School of Rock pedophile is one of the most disturbing things I've ever read about. Meet Jason James Murphy, a former Hollywood casting agent who, before he worked as a casting agent for children, had been convicted of one of the most terrible crimes I've read about. So when Jason was just 19 years old, he was in college at the time, he kidnapped an 8-year-old boy, held him hostage, and repeatedly assaulted him. He had met the boy while he was working as a camp counselor, and he eventually served 5 years in prison and was obviously required to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life. But in 2005, just a few years after Jason got out of prison, he moved to California, and that's when he started working in Hollywood. Jason was a casting agent for a number of huge films. He worked by helping to cast the children in the film School of Rock. He also helped to cast the film Cheaper by the Dozen, which obviously has a lot of kids in it. And he worked on a number of different movies, including stuff like Super 8 by J.J. Abrams. Now, apparently, people didn't really know about his past, which I think is really strange, because if they were actually doing background checks on the people that they hired, they would see that this man had served 5 years in prison. But in 2011, he was rearrested for failing to file a name change. Now, he was arrested again in 2011 after he had worked on all these movies because he failed to file a name change and a change of address with the government. But he had apparently been working for years under a different name. And I mean, this guy was trying to outrun his sordid past, but with such a horrible crime that you've committed, you can never outrun that. And I don't know if he's still working with Hollywood, working around kids, but I really hope that he's not.
See, because we were just talking about what's going on in freaking Hollywood. That's another prime example. How the heck you don't know, man? You didn't look into his past when you hired people? You would think of Hollywood, they would do that.
What they find out years later will haunt you. A young couple decided to take a late-night stroll through the forest, but little did they know what awaited them. As they walked, the man felt a sense of unease, but his girlfriend dismissed his concerns. Suddenly, the man stepped on something that felt alive and squishy under his feet. Before he could react, they heard rustling from the bushes beside them. They ignored it and kept walking until they returned home. Years later, and they were watching TV when an interview with a death row inmate caught their attention. The man had been asked if he had ever came close to getting caught for his heinous crimes. The killer responded with a chilling tale. "Yes, I remember one night in the woods, a couple walked right by me. The man stepped on the body of the girl who I had just killed. I was hiding in the bushes just a few feet away, but they never saw me." The couple watched in horror as the name of one of the most notorious serial killers was revealed. His name was Ted Bundy. Follow, because my next story is crazy.
Seekers, man. You never know. That's why you always got to be aware of your surroundings. They were just walking through the woods and like this, probably average night walk for them, man. And what they stumbled upon, bro, that could have freaking changed their life forever, man. They survived that, man. They was able to go home. You always gotta be where you're surrounded, Seekers, man. You never know who's around, bro. It's a prime example.
You wanted to know more about Sheree Glenn, and I found you more. This was the leaked booking photo of Sheree Glenn, one of America's most infamous cannibals from the 80s. So much of her story and these case records had been sealed from the public because it was deemed too disturbing to print. Even this booking photo, it was sealed. This is a leak. They did have somebody submit another leaked photo of this photo. It's just from a closer angle. Like I said, there's not really much that's publicly known because so much of her case was actually sealed. The rumors of the story was that the case was so bizarre and so horrific in the cannibalistic practice practices that it was difficult at the time to find a jury that could stand it. Descriptions of not only her consuming victims, but forcing victims to consume parts of her. Somebody also reached out and tracked down what they think might be a yearbook photo of her from the 70s. By no means is it 100% confirmed, but it does look really similar to her. It's 100% in the eyes.
I can't believe that case was so severe that they had to close it.
This
No
has to be
details.
one of the scariest videos I've ever seen. No ghosts, no spirits, real life. A young female real estate photographer was taking photos for her job one day. She happened to be in an occupied house. A resident began following her around. She says this wasn't unusual, so she didn't think anything of it, until she started noticing multiple locks on certain doors, and even a camera pointed toward one of these doors. When she goes upstairs, a man comes out of one of the rooms. What happens next is straight out of a horror film. You have to see the video for yourself.
Okay, so I took pictures of this house, and this guy was following me around like the whole time, which isn't unusual, but he was a little bit strange, and there was like 6 people living in this house, like the hoarder house. But I also noticed they have like 3 locks on the door, and then down here they have locks, and then going up here they have a camera, and it's facing this door. Anyway, a roommate comes out of this door, and he asks them if he should lock the door and kidnap me. And I said, immediately, people know where I am. And then he laughed and said, no one would ever hear from you again. Bro, I did not even finish this house. I immediately left. I was like, nope, dipped the f out.
You should.
You can see me right there. Hello. But yeah, pretty sure I maybe almost got kidnapped, but I don't really know.
If you're a woman and you've ever had any close calls like this, let me know in the comments below. We need to spread awareness that things like this really happen.
She should wear her surrounding seekers, man. Like, they had all those locks on that door. That's already suspicious, and the camera pointed towards the door. And she said it was a hoarder house, so there's a lot of people in there, man. But those locks, that was like a data giveaway that something weird was going on. And for him to just be so bluntly about it, saying nobody would know you were gone, like, what the hell was going through his mind? And she dipped out of it. She did what she was supposed to do. Get out. See, man. If you're in a situation like that, and if you can exit, leave that situation, take it, because you never know what's the alternative.
Tell me you didn't delete the video of the dead kid. It's $10K if you give to the popo. That's one of the texts accused killer Taylor Sherman received after he and his friends, known as the Gilbert Goons gang, allegedly beat 16-year-old Preston Lord to death. After the incident, the FBI was offering a $10,000 reward for more information. In another message, accused killer Jacob Meisner asked people to delete the videos to cover their tracks. All 7 suspects have pleaded not guilty.
This video evidence is not too much they can do, man. It's like their fate is sealed. Gotta face the consequences of their action, man.
Eaten alive by a grizzly bear captured on harrowing video footage. It was October 2003. Timothy Treadwell was a 46-year-old grizzly bear enthusiast. He famously claimed that he felt more at home in nature with the bears than in normal human society. He spent a total of 13 summers in Alaska's Katmai National Park, documenting the giant creatures. He would stun people by how close he got to the giant animals. He said the animals understood him and that there was a mutual respect, and he would even occasionally wrestle with the baby cubs. Park rangers, though, were warning Timothy about how unpredictable the animals could be. This was what Timothy lived for, though. He seemed very willing to take the huge risk of getting up close and personal with these beautiful bears. Now, Timothy began to get complacent. On one occasion, he even left food open inside of his tent. Rangers had to warn him not to do this. Now, in the autumn in question, he was actually with his girlfriend Amy at the park. And they usually only stayed for the summer, but this year they were there much later into October. Bears are known to be a little bit more anxious and antagonistic this time of year as they are preparing for hibernation and food supplies are less. On the 5th of October, Timothy and his girlfriend were due to be picked up. They were getting a plane out of the national park, but when the pilot turned up, they were nowhere to be found. Near the campsite, the pilot stumbled upon something terrifying. A human ribcage lay on the floor. Park rangers were called and they were met by a terrifying bear. It tried to attack them, so they killed it. Human remains were later found in its stomach. They were the remains of Timothy and Amy. Timothy's video camera was later recovered from the campsite. The camera had captured the couple's brutal death. The audio from the camera was rolling and it picked up Timothy screaming that he was being killed out here. Amy then shouts at him to play dead and then encourages him to fight back. Tragically, they were both eaten by the grizzly bear.
At the end of the day, man, like I said, when people want to try to connect with nature, they gotta understand, like, these wild animals, at the end of the day, these animals, they're freaking wild animals, so they have their instincts, so even though you might think they're tamed, you never know what could happen, man. Like I said, it was close to hibernation, so it just, something went off, I guess, in that bear's head for food, and it just took it, man. Tragic story, Seekers. Yeah, dude.
How did you get the ropes on you? Who did them? You're not in trouble with me, okay? We're just trying to figure out what's going on. Our main focus right now is you, okay? Who put the ropes on you? Supposed to help you what?
Imagine being invited over for a study session only to be murdered and eaten by another student. This man literally killed and ate a human and never spent any time in jail. It was the 11th of June 1981 in Paris. Isai Sagawa was a Japanese man studying in France. On the day in question, he invited a fellow student round to help him translate poetry for an assignment. The student was Dutch woman Renee Hartveld. She had no idea he had sinister plans for her. She also wasn't aware of his dark and depraved past. He planned to kill and eat her, and his reasoning was that he felt that he was weak and ugly. She, on the other hand, was very healthy and beautiful. He thought if he ate her, he would take on her characteristics. When she showed up, he shot her in the neck. Horrifically, he then arred her body and tried to eat her, but realized his teeth weren't sharp enough. He decided to go out and come back with a sharp knife. Upon arrival back at the house, he ate part of her face, bum, feet and neck. He then saved some of her body parts in his fridge. Now as time went on, the rest of her body started to decompose. He panicked and took the rest of her remains over to a lake. Luckily, he was caught doing so and was found to have 2 suitcases with him filled with body parts. Now this should have been the end of the tale, and he should have gone to prison and served a lot of time for this hideous crime. It turned out, as a child, he'd experienced cannibalistic desires. When he was 24, he'd stalked a woman and followed her back to her apartment. He then broke in as she slept. Now she actually woke up and fought back. He was arrested and charged with R, but actually had a wealthy dad who just paid off the victim. A few years later, in 1977, he went to study in Paris. He claimed he would often bring home S-workers and intend to kill them, but just would freeze up. Now again, due to his wealthy family, when he got arrested for the horrific cannibal murder, he was able to afford a good lawyer. He was found legally insane and unfit to stand trial. He was then placed in a mental hospital for an unspecified amount of time. However, his case then started getting widespread media attention, and he was actually deported back to Japan. It was in Japan he was declared sane. Now the charges in France had been dropped, and he was released from hospital in 1986 and then was a free man. This was obviously heavily criticised by so many people. Staggeringly, he remained free until 2022, when he passed away from pneumonia in Tokyo, aged 73.
This is Funky Town, one of the worst cartels.
If you can have that, I'll tell you, man, Secret, man, when people have money and power, they can try to get away with anything, man. That's another prime example. He was declared legally insane thing when he came back. He was sane. So it's like, which one is it then, Seekers? It didn't face no consequences, man.
cartel execution videos explained. Okay, before I begin, this is a massive trigger warning. The video begins in some sort of room and there is music playing. The first song that plays is Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, and the camera pans to the victim tied on the floor with some plastic wire, but the torture already began before the video starts, because the victim looks like he already went through complete brutality. His hands have already been cut off and his face has been completely flayed, which means skinned. There is no skin on the victim's face at all, and his eyes have been gouged out, and there is an insane amount of blood on the floor. But the most messed up part about this is that the victim is hooked up to some sort of IV, and the IV is pumping him with drugs to keep him alive and aware, making sure he felt everything happening to him. At the start of the video, they try and slit his throat with a sickle and press it against his jaw. But when the victim begins to scream, they shove a box cutter in his mouth to shut him up. His screams are absolutely gut-turning. They kept going from screaming to gurgling, from screaming to gurgling. And as the video progresses, they take the box cutter and slit his throat about 40 times. And keep in mind, the victim is still alive and aware of everything because of the drugs they are giving him to keep him alive. Also, the killers are mocking and laughing at the victim the entire time. They continue to try and slit his throat with the box cutter and were going at his neck numerous times, all while the song Funky Town was playing in the background, hence the name of the video. The killers kept having to physically restrain the victim, meaning there was still a lot of life left in him, and the amount of pain he had to be in is completely unimaginable. At one point in the video, a man had his foot on his chest holding him down, and another time they had shoved a pole in his mouth holding him in place. But the worst part about the video is towards the end, where the victim manages to loosen his arms from the restraints and immediately tries to touch his face. But remember, the victim has no face at all, no hands, and no eyes. But instinctively, the victim still tries to touch his face. It's absolutely horrifying, and the video then concludes. Keep in mind, the victim was still alive when the video ended, so who knows what else they did to him before he died. Because they were literally keeping him alive just to torture him. This victim went through so much pain and torment, and you can make an argument that nobody has ever been tortured as bad as this guy ever. I explain this based off pure memory from the first time I saw the video, because I won't dare watch it again because it's that gruesome. Everybody who saw videos like this always say Funky Town is the worst of the worst. And I honestly think that might be true, so please don't watch it and please don't search it up.
I won't. I never watch those type of video seekers, man. He says don't watch it, I take his word. Seekers, that's it, man, for this video for you guys today. If you guys stay with me to the end, you're a true seeker seeking the truth, so I really appreciate the support, guys. Like I said, guys, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, man, hit that post notification bell so we could grow our community together and we can get to this algorithm, man, so more people can see us. Like, guys, also follow me on my social medias, man. Links are in the description down below. I really appreciate a follow. Guys, I'm catching the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, seekers.